Hey guys, it's Alex with Hammond Watch. I'm here today with my personal SRPB77. And it's one of the new cocktail time watches. And when I say new, I just mean not the old SARB variant with the 6-hour movement and kind of the bigger size. You'll also notice presage on the newer ones, but I wasn't sure about this particular variant. I had been looking at picking up a cocktail time for a while. Just so happens that this was a fantastic deal, so I really couldn't say no. And after getting it in person, I kind of prefer it. You know, I had been looking at that kind of icy blue dial with the polished hands, and I got a chance to look at them side by side recently and really grew to appreciate this watch even a little bit more. If you guys aren't familiar, the case on these, it's a 40.5 millimeter case. Your lug to lug is 47.5, and that's tip to tip. There's a little bit of space in before you get to the spring bar holes, but with every strap that I've put on it, it protrudes a little bit, so I think it's pretty safe working with that as the effective lug to lug. Your thickness is just a shade over 12 millimeters. A lot of that has to do with the box-shaped Hardlex crystal. I'm a huge fan. These box-shaped crystals are meant to kind of mimic old acrylic crystals, which I'm a huge fan of. I've got one on my Datejust. I just think it offers a lot of charm to the watch. It does attract scratches and certainly doesn't add to its robust qualities. But with a watch like this, I don't think you're going to beat on it too much. The crown itself is amazing. I love the shape of these. It starts at right around 6 millimeters and flares up to around 7 at the end. And it's signed with that kind of traditional Seiko S. I also love that it has no crown guards. The lug width on these is 20 millimeters, which is very nice and convenient. I did switch over to a collar reb. I think it's called the Venzia strap. It's the tobacco color, and I'll put a link down below if you guys want to have a closer look. I really enjoy collar reb straps. The watch itself actually came on a bracelet, and I'm just not a big fan. I don't mind the design. I like kind of the modern or kind of updated feeling take on the Jubilee, but at the same time, I'm just not a huge fan of the execution. I can get over not having, solid end links, but I think at a retail price of $450 nowadays, you really need to. I just don't really like butterfly clasps. This one feels nice enough. Made in China, as most straps and bracelets are, but I just don't like the way it feels on my wrist. I don't like that I tend to get in situations where these end up getting pushed, and I don't feel like it's as secure as it should be, so just always going to prefer this on a strap. Plus, as a dress watch, I think a strap is a little bit more appropriate. And I think that these vintage style ones really help to dress it down and make it more of like a kind of a smart t-shirt watch, more so than needing some type of collared shirt or formal setting. The watch has a screw down case back. It is polished with basic specifications running around. You can see that the water resistance is just 5 bars, so 50 meters. Again, being a dress watch, it's not really going to be suitable for any type of water activities, but if you're washing your hands or it's a rainy day, I think you're in the clear. The watch is powered by a 4R36B. It's a Seiko in-house caliber. You have a 41-hour power reserve. It's a time and date piece, and your accuracy is plus 45 to minus 35 seconds a day. So the star of the show with these watches, and the reason that you buy them, is because of the dial. Seiko is one of the best in the world when it comes to making an attractive, kind of dynamic dial. And these watches are no different, and especially at the price point when you start looking at their competition. And I understand that, in the technical sense, an Orient Bambino is a much better value for what you're getting. The Seiko just has that X factor. It's just a more appealing watch, and I think like we've seen over time in the watch market, An attractive dial will cure a lot of shortcomings and will always kind of demand a premium. You know, a great watch has to have a really nice dial. You have a polished applied Seiko logo and then applied indices. They're all incredibly sharp, like the dial. They play with the light, so it's a really cohesive package. You have a beautifully framed date window. It fits the watch very nice. You don't lose the indice, and it just doesn't feel forced, as it sometimes can on watches like this. The hands on this particular model are painted blue, and I thought this was going to be a deal breaker for me, honestly. I was worried that the blued hands would I would know that they were painted and that it wouldn't capture the look well, but when I compared this against kind of the icy blue variant with the polished hands that I was considering, this watch was so much more legible. You know, you only get touches of blue in certain light, but you're able to tell the time at a glance, and I found that on a light dial with everything being polished, it was just a little bit tricky, so I've kind of grown to prefer this particular variant. So here's the watch on my 7.5 to 7 3/4 inch wrist. They're relatively lightweight and I think a lot more versatile than they get credit for. You can go shiny, thin, kind of dressier strap and really lean into the whole dress watch aesthetic, or switching over to suede or something a little bit more vintage really gives it a nice casual look. Also, I find that with it being a lighter weight watch, adding a thicker strap gives it a little bit better wrist presence, and obviously keeps everything really secure. So let's talk about the pricing just a little bit. Retail on these is $450, and if I'm being honest, I wouldn't pay that for one. I don't think these things are priced correctly in a retail setting. There's just too much competition nowadays. That said, I looked around and it looks like Amazon is about the cheapest you can buy this particular variant new at $330. If you look on eBay, you can find near new, like really good condition in like the mid to high twos. If you wait around or are willing to get one that maybe has a few scratches, you're looking a lot closer to like that $225 range. And I've even seen them dip lower than that. You know, some of the watches that are deemed, I guess, a little bit less desirable, this one included, sometimes dip under $200. I was able to pick this one up used for $150. The seller was a little bit liberal with the word minty. There were a few scratches here and there, but you know, nothing that made it a bad deal by any stretch. I knew that there were going to be some little nicks in the crystal, but I'm going to be doing a sapphire swap on this anyway. When looking at sapphire crystals that are boxed that are going to fit this watch, Long Island Watch sells them. I want to say they're like $90 though. So if I was going to buy the watch and then also a $90 crystal, it really needed to be at the right price so I could get the package I wanted at a good price. I'm going to sell the bracelet to try to offset some of the cost, being that I'm not a huge fan of it. And I should be in this thing, you know, hopefully around $225, which is kind of right where I'd want to be, especially with the sapphire upgrade being included in that. You know, these things are truly beautiful, and I think a great change of pace. I imagine a lot of you, like me, have a lot of sports watches, and mixing it up and having something a little bit dressier, I think is really refreshing. You know, you've got to enjoy the variety in the watch world and not get stuck on one thing, or you'll end up one of these guys that's got 17 black dial dive watches. I hope you guys have enjoyed the video. If you did, please don't forget to give us a thumbs up. It really helps in YouTube's algorithm. Also, consider subscribing. I'm putting out watch content weekly at a minimum, and I hope to see you in the next one.